Hi everyone. Today we're going to look briefly at water pollution. As always, if you need to get a hold of me, the best way to do that is via email. Without any further ado, let's jump right in. So water pollution is something that you guys are undoubtedly familiar with already, and you can probably think of several sources of pollution. I think most commonly when we discuss water pollution in class, students tend to think of a pipe that is coming out and dumping directly into the ocean or into a stream, like the one shown here. Or sometimes they might even just imagine trash. But really, water pollution is more general. It can be any kind of toxic or harmful substance that you find in the water. And there's a variety of ways and sources for this pollution. Now, there's about three words as we're looking at pollution that I need you to keep in mind. One of those words is going to be wastewater. So, wastewater is a very general term for water that has been used by humans, and in some way, the quality of that water has been affected. And it could be that in fact it has been contaminated. So wastewater. Another term you're going to run into is sewage. Now, this is a term that many of you have heard, and really, sewage just is just any water that has been contaminated by human waste, and by human waste, we of course mean poop and pee. Sewage, of course, can carry bacteria and diseases, and so of course that is a type of contamination. And the last term that I want you to be thinking about as we look at pollution is stormwater. And really, stormwater is just the water that is going to run off after usually precipitation, after a rain. And so, as water runs across the surface and collects into these bigger and bigger streams, of course, as it's moving across the surface, it is also collecting anything that might be on the surface and carrying it with it. And so things like chemicals and oils and salts, all kinds of bits can be carried by stormwater. So water pollution is really just about anything, and we're gonna look at several sources, but don't just think of it as a pipe pouring sludge into the water. So if your current idea of water pollution is just this, that idea of a pipe that's usually coming from a factory, while this can be a source of pollution, this is not the only one. So let's take a look. I think this drawing is, or this image is very, very helpful for us. And I'm going to point out that we have two types here. We have two types of pollution. We have non-point pollution and we have point sources of pollution. A point source really just means it's something like a pipe. It is a single place where the pollution is making its way into the water. So it's not generated by runoff. On the other hand, non-point sources, those are going to be really runoff that comes from all across that watershed or all across a much wider area. So it's not a single pipe. So some sources of pollution, and I'm just going to start with these non-point sources. Of course, farms, lawns, and golf courses. Well, these are included because lots of times these are places where you're going to see things like fertilizers that help make plants grow, pesticides, which are designed to kill insects and other pests that may destroy crops, and herbicides, which kill unwanted plants. So when these things are sprayed, these chemicals are sprayed, of course, they are sprayed onto the ground, often where plants are. And as it rains, these chemicals are washed away and run off into larger streams. So that's, of course, going to cause some water pollution. Residential neighborhoods uh, and urban streets. This is also another place, another common source of pollution. So streets in particular, you're going to have salt that may be put on the road to melt snow and ice. You're going to have oil, grease, and other chemicals that come off of automobiles that are driving on the streets. Those are often going to go down off into storm drains, and those storm drains, generally speaking, are connected to the a system that runs almost directly into these streams. And this, for us here, this is a really common type of water pollution. Construction sites, If you've ever seen a place where maybe a building is being built or the land is being cleared, you're going to notice a lot of times you have something called erosion there, where you're going to actually have the soil get washed away. And so when we see a stream become muddy, and we see lots of sediment or mud in a stream, that is another type of pollution. Abandoned mines can also leach things and seep things into streams, but we don't see that as much around here. Animal feedlots. So this is, of course, we're looking at point sources now. So animal feedlots are places where animals are penned very closely together. And one of the primary concerns here is going to be really the animal waste. The poop and the pee is going to be really concentrated here, and that's going to make its way into the water, and that can create some really nasty pollution. So they show cattle here, but in North Carolina, we also have lots of pig lots, big pig farms that we end up polluting the water with. Sewage treatment plants. So of course, human sewage, if you don't have a septic tank, goes into a pipe and that pipe leads somewhere. And so it often leads to a sewage treatment plant. Sewage treatment plants really are able to take wastewater and make it much, much safer. Most sewage treatment plants, on the other hand, are not producing pure water to put back into the environment. So it's just producing water that is much less polluted or much less dangerous. Here locally, some of you even may know where the sewage treatment plants are, and you may even know where they dump into the river or into local streams. And so that water is just often returned to the environment, but that can be a source of pollution. So we also have any kind of factories or any kind of disposal sites of waste. Of course, this stuff can make its way through runoff directly into the stream. And so we looked at last week a video that showed us some ways that factories can actually pollute water long term. And then we can have things, of course, that are spilled directly into the water, which turns out to be the one of the least common types of pollution. So while it's really easy to look at all these types of pollution, all these sources of pollution, and just imagine this all as runoff, I do want you to think about the fact that each one of these also you have oftentimes you have some of these chemicals, some of these pesticides and herbicides, some of these toxic chemicals from industrial waste sites. You have these that are also seeping into the soil and seeping down off into the groundwater. So water pollution is not just in streams or in lakes or in the ocean. Water pollution can also be underground. So the groundwater itself can become polluted as water is infiltrated and percolates down off into the rock underground for storage. All right, guys, that's about all I would want to tell you today about pollution. So this is a really important diagram for us as we think about pollution. Hope you all have a great day.